Okay, hello. My name is Mario Jametti. I'm a professor of public economics at the Institute of Economics of Università della Svizzera Italiana. Today, I would like to talk a little bit about the federal measures to address the corona pandemic and to reduce the economic consequences of this. Essentially, there's three pots of measures. Two of them are income compensation, so that's the Kurzarbeit or lavoro ridotto, that should save jobs without sending people to unemployment. There's a similar income compensation for independent that is being put in place. And there's a third pot that should, which are liquidity credits that should save firms from going bankrupt because they cannot pay their bills anymore. The liquidity credits is actually what I would like to focus on in the rest of the talk. They have been installed very fast. It needed to be a quick response to guarantee liquidity to potentially avoid a ripple effect in the economy that firms cannot pay their bills anymore and start going bankrupt. And the conditions are very so the smallest credits of those are given at 0% interest. They can be paid back in 5 to 7 years, and there's 100% to a government guarantee in case of defaulting on the loans. Larger credits have slightly stricter conditions, but they're still very generous. And again, the idea was to inject liquidity in the economy. There are some conditions, however, that make this different, for example, from the income compensation. So first of all, the message has been clear. These are credits. They should have to be paid back in the first time, which again is different from income compensation, which is government-issued money. The second one is the guarantee will be paid out once a firm goes bankrupt. So only then there's intervention to save the credit for the banking system. And the third interesting condition is that as long as you have, as a firm, an outstanding loan, you cannot pay out profits to your capital owners, which meaning in a sense that the government wants to imply that owners of enterprise have to reduce their compensation for the invested capital until the loan has become back. Now, one of the issues is, well, should this really just be credits, or should at least partially, these credits be forfeited as well, or allowed to be non-paid back? The finance minister was fairly optimistic yesterday. He announced in a guesstimate that he expects only about 10% of firms that will of these loans that will actually have to be borne by the government. That might be overly optimistic, and to put this number in context, given the current number, that is still about more than 10,000 firms that would go bankrupt according to the crisis, which is the order of magnitude of firms that in a normal year go bankrupt. So we would double the number of bankrupt firms and a multiple of this of jobs. So should there really be just credits, or should there be criteria under which some of these loans can be cancelled or forfeited, as I mentioned? I think there should be, and there's a bit of a debate that is going on. I think we should establish some criteria for three reasons mainly. I think we want to avoid an uncontrolled wave of bankruptcies in the economy. We don't want all of a sudden that many firms start to defaulting on the loans, and in order to do that, they have to go bankrupt, because that might create a lot of ripple effects again in the economy. Similar to any credit, we also want to avoid that each firm individually goes to the federal government and asks for renegotiation of these credits, because that might bureaucratically just not be feasible, and that might lead to discretion on who gets for loan forgiven or so. And the third thing that I think what we want to do is to analyze what is the impact of these looming credits to have to be repaid back on investment behavior of firms, which might be crucial in the relaunch of the activity. So I think some criteria will be necessary. I think a good example is something that we observed at the beginning of the week, where the restaurant association, or the umbrella of the restaurant association, announced that they proposed that 3 months of rent of restaurants should be allowed to use against the liquidation of the credit. Now, this is a very concrete proposal on a sector that is very much heard, but it leaves some questions open. Something that comes to mind is, for a restaurant that is in a very exposed in a central area, that might be a large percentage of the loan it had to take out because rents are very high. But for another restaurant that is somewhere in the mountains, that might just be a small percentage of the loan that has to be taken on because the cost structure might be different. It might also be unfavorable for restaurant owners that actually invested in their property and don't pay the rent anymore. So this is an example on, I think what you're going to see, and that's why criteria might be important, that are clear guidelines on when these loans could be forfeited, because we might see a myriad of these proposals, some more feasible or not, by individual firms or sector branches. And with this, I would like to close, and thank you for your attention.